We'll see what they do. And then the Giants adding former Titans head coach Brian Callahan to John Harbaugh's coaching staff as the pass game coordinator, joining Matt Nagy, another former head coach who was hired as offensive coordinator. A couple former offensive coordinators on that staff as well, and Greg Roman and Tim Kelly. John Harbaugh loading up his coaching staff with NFL coaching experience.
Yeah, Mike Bloomgren, right? A former college head coach. Sure. So, yeah, a lot of voices, a lot of cooks in that kitchen. And as we saw, Jaxson Dart had a very solid season as a rookie, despite not starting a game until week 4. Over that span, he led all quarterbacks in rushing yards, top 2 in rushing touchdowns, even though actually missed 2 additional games at that point. From a passing standpoint, Dart ranked just outside the top 10 in QBR passing touchdowns per interception. Pretty good stuff. And in Field Yates' brand new mock draft, which is dropped on ESPN.com, he has the Giants going defense. Safety Caleb Downs from Ohio State. Okay, and we know that John Harbaugh's in charge, and he comes from Baltimore, that defensive DNA. Why did you have him going to that side of the ball?
Well, as J-Mac knows, you can never have enough good defensive backs, even though corners are the superior players.
I'm just happy. I'm just happy you said it.
Let's get that out of the way. Right.
I just want to make that part very clear here. But John Harbaugh has perhaps witnessed as much great safety play as any head coach of this generation, maybe ever, right? He began his coaching career as a head coach with the Ravens with Ed Reed, a gold jacket player. Most recently, he coached Kyle Hamilton, an incredibly unique player, as an all-pro for the Baltimore Ravens. Caleb Downs might be the most complete player in the entire draft class. There's not really anything he can't do. He's been at Alabama, at Ohio State. He's played as a center fielder and showed off range and ball skills. He's basically been a linebacker in a scheme as well. He may not be the size of a linebacker, but he has a physicality and a toughness. He's played under great defensive minds at both Alabama and most recently at Ohio State. Not a glaring weakness in this player's game, and in an exercise that can sometimes be very futile and difficult to actually figure out. I think you can do a whole lot worse than what feels like a home run in Caleb Downs.
You like that? DB at 5?
I do. What I like about Caleb Downs is what you just said, versatility. And when you talk about John Harbaugh and you talk about safety play, I know you love Kyle Hamilton.
Yes.
He's a guy that came in as a safety, and you assumed he was going to be a middle-of-the-field player or rangy player. And then next thing you know, he's down at the line of scrimmage, and he allows other people to do other things within that defense. So I think for the Giants, you just signed Javon Holland a year ago to a massive deal. You drafted Tyler Nubin, who's there, more of a strong safety type of player. How can you move those guys around to help complement a guy like Caleb Downs? I think that's the big thing with that, getting guys that are versatile pieces. And then on top of that, what they have up front. Like, you have guys that can get after the quarterback. My only concern would be, is getting more help for Jaxson Dart. Can you get a receiver opposite Malik Neighbors? Are you bringing Jermaine Illuminor, the right tackle, back to keep your quarterback safe? Those are going to be the questions of how much you can build around your young quarterback.
And that's the thing. It's the number 5 pick. So, like, franchise cornerstone is the goal, right?
Yes.
At whatever that position
point.
is. John Harbaugh's not used to picking this high. The Giants are. And no, I'm not kidding. That's true, though. I mean, they know, guys like Abdul Carter and Malik Neighbors who pick in these ranges. So, that's what I think. So, my question on Caleb Downs is he that guy? Is he Kyle Hamilton, who was the 14 pick, but there's a big difference between 5 and 14 in terms of value?
Yeah, Kyle unfortunately fell because of his speed, right? He had a slower 40, close to 4.6, which as a safety is apparently a no-go. You got to drop all the way down to number 14. What's helping the case of Caleb Downs? 2 things is, first of all, this is not some otherworldly draft. The number of blue chip players is very low compared to some of the recent drafts we have had. 2 is, think of what was happening in the Super Bowl this past Sunday. Like, Nick Manwari plays for a defense where he might be the 3rd safety. He's also the nickel for Seattle. You can have defenses where you're playing with 5 or 6 defensive backs on the field, 60 or 65% of your snaps, that even if you now have 3 legitimate safety investments, that might be enough because you're justifying these players all as starters. More like your 3rd safety probably plays more than your starting defensive tackle.
I mean, he was a Swiss Army knife, right?
Yeah. So
let me ask you something, Graz, and I don't know how much we actually know about this. We remember all those discussions when Harbaugh took over the job, right? About how much he would have over personnel in terms of overseeing that. And you figure Baltimore built one of the best rosters in football, right? Great scouting department. Like, what kind of impact have we seen John Harbaugh have so far?
You've already seen some moves, behind-the-scenes moves in the building, guys who have been there, people who have been in positions that have been shifted into different positions after decades with the organization, some real mainstays. So John Harbaugh has already set about constructing this thing his way. And in terms of who gets to make the pick, him or GM Joe Shane, that could be semantic to a certain extent. But I think John Harbaugh's influence is not at all in question.
Which one makes $20 million a year?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I think that's a good point, a good question, Hannah, because now when we look at their roster, because you can say, hey, you paid Javon Highland, you drafted Tyler Newbern, Drew Phillips has been your slot guy, and you can look at Caleb Downs and say, hey, is he a luxury? But when you bring in a new head coach that has some say in the roster, you got to go get guys that he feels like are his guys and are going to set the tone with the right mentality.
And quickly to the Eamon Warrior comparison, this Giants defense likely to be conceptually similar to what Mike McDonald, who came from Baltimore, runs in Seattle.
Yeah, get a lot of bang for your buck, right? Yeah. With the right player. All right, guys, we're just getting started here on NFL Live. Julian Love says he actually noticed a tell from Drake May during the... And that was the most memorable speech of the parade yesterday as we welcome you to NFL Live. Hannah Storr, Dan Graziano, J. McField. Here we are, the offseason, guys.
Yes.
Let's turn the page, right?
Speak for yourself,
What's
right?
that?
Yeah, not you, Mr. Draft expert, every single day. All right, listen, the Hawks, they got to defend that title, right? We just heard it there. Several key defenders set to be free agents this season, from safety Kobe Bryant to corners Reek Woolen, Josh Jobe. Those three, by the way, accounted for a third of Seattle's interceptions and pass breakups, so this is not insignificant. Also worth noting, Devin Witherspoon, their cornerback, is eligible for an extension this offseason. So as they prove, defense wins championships.
Indeed it does.
Yeah, we got these expiring contracts. What should the top priority be?
Well, you saw Devin Witherspoon at the bottom of that screen. I think he'll be the top priority now that he's able to get that extension. You get that done early because the price tag is only going to go up, and we saw his performance in the Super Bowl. So as I look at that for Seattle, you're looking at different guys. You look at that safety position with Kobe Bryant. Ty Okada, he filled in for him. He did admirable throughout the course of the season. I could see them letting him walk. This defense is set up for that front four to get after the quarterback. How much are you willing to pay your corners, Reek Woolen and Josh Jobe, on the outside? Are you willing to roll the dice and maybe sign another veteran or look to the draft? Hey, the one thing that's beautiful as we look at that ceremony where they're going out there in the parade, when you win, everybody wins and guys get paid because other teams throughout the course of the league are going to look at those guys that were on that screen and say, you know what, we want a talented player that has Super Bowl experience and we're going to want to bring them into our program and let them lead. So they're going to have to let some of those guys walk and believe in what John Schneider has done and some of the other guys that he's drafted.
Yeah, the Seahawks' actions are going to tell you, who they prioritize as the building blocks. Devin Witherspoon, a high pick who's played like one, he should get an extension. And it should be a big one. Yeah. Seattle has fourth or fifth most in the entire league, the way they've managed their roster, the way they've managed their cap. So they're going to be able to make the choices they want to make. If one of the defensive backs who's a free agent prices himself out, they'll go find somebody else. If the running back, Kenneth Walker, who was Super Bowl MVP, if he prices himself out, my guess is they go find someone else. I think Rashid Shaheed is a free agent to watch. I think they'll make him a priority because I don't think he'll be a break the bank wide receiver contract, and he helps them in so many different ways in special teams and as a number 2 wide receiver. So I look for that, and then I'm fascinated to see what the choices are that they make on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they picked 32 as well in the draft. That's a nice little problem to have. You have to wait all the way until 32. I'll say this about the Seahawks, though, is think about some of the players that were significant contributors to this Super Bowl victory. Obviously, most notably Sam Darnold. They assigned as a free agent last year, but they also traded for and eventually extended Leonard Williams and Ernest Jones, defensive tackle and linebacker. You might see this team over the next few years enter a new phase, which is basically it's mostly in-house, right? Those big swings that you make either in free agency or on the trade market are a lot fewer and further between once you have reached this level of success and team building, because every dollar you spend means one less dollar to pay somebody else. Let's assume that Jackson Smith-Njigba and Devin Witherspoon both get new contracts this offseason. That's all great and well and good. You're already, though, planning about what it could look like for other younger players on your roster that are not even extension eligible. This is something that the teams that have sustained success have to deal with. As I said yesterday on the show, it's the single greatest problem to have in roster building in professional football. You got a lot of good guys, you got to pay them.
And I think as you talk about Jackson Smith and Jigba and the offensive side of the ball, you mentioned Darnold as well. Them not signing Darnold to that massive contract, it allows you to make some other moves.
Right?
And then you also look at this with Kubiak now moving on to the Raiders. From an offensive standpoint, I would assume they elevate within, as they've already interviewed 4 different candidates, just because if you just won the Super Bowl with the staff that's there, do you want to go change it from elsewhere? So now as you're looking at paying those players, who are the guys that now can carry the mantle and continue to move it forward?
Yeah, that staff had a lot of responsibility under Clint Kubiak. Sure. Again, he is out of the building. So what's the latest with the search for an OC?
They are interviewing 4 internal candidates from their staff yesterday and today, in and around the parade festivities. Mike Macdonald has said that he would prefer continuity. Here are the names. Now, look, some of these guys, 1 or 2 of them may be candidates to go with Clint Kubiak to the Raiders. But if not, I think, they're all good candidates for offensive coordinator there, as Mike Macdonald wants to keep things moving the way they have been, and you can understand why. They just won the Super Bowl. They have to do a search. They have to interview external candidates, but don't be surprised if it ends up back at one of these guys. Talk about Sam Darnold's contract. He has a $15 million